Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In this episode, I'm here with my really good friend Clarke, who is the author of Homeboy and the Pyramids, a travel guide for the so-called black man. And well, he's a really good friend of mine that we actually met about a year ago, actually towards the beginning of the year, where he was actually traveling through Merida, Yucatan, Mexico, where I actually live. And he looked me up and he said, "Hey, Jose, I know you don't know me, but I'm a writer and I would like to interview you for my publication. Would you like to get interviewed?" And I'm like, "Yeah, me? Sure. Of course, that'd be awesome." And so we met up at a coffee shop, and then, yeah, he interviewed me. We became friends, and remained in contact ever since. He's been back a few times to Mexico, but I think right now you're in Guatemala, right?
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
Guatemala right now.
Awesome, awesome. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it, okay? So, I'm here to interview Clarke, because I know that he has a very interesting story. Well, he's traveled all over the world, and well, I thought his story was interesting. So, a little while after he interviewed me, I wanted to interview him, and well, here we are. So, who are you? Where are you from? And yeah, let's just get right into it.
All right, well, thanks, man. I don't know how I'm gonna follow up that intro, but yeah, I'm from Queens, New York, and I think yeah, I got introduced to travel. Well, I also want to share I've lived abroad approximately 6 years, and there's a list of countries, so it includes Brazil. Then I came back to the States, and then there was Asia for 4.5 years. That includes China, um, Taiwan, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Came back into Africa for about 8 months, then Mexico, and currently in Guatemala. So, uh, as you mentioned, when we met, I came to Mexico to work on my travel memoir. When I came back from Asia in 2018, I read the book called The Beach. Now, this book inspired a film that was that included Leonardo DiCaprio. It was a very inspirational film, and that this is a travel film that encouraged a lot of people to travel. But I read it and I said, I can write something better than this. It wasn't that it was bad. It's a good book for its time. And the author wrote that book when he was 26, but that book allowed him to get into directing. It opened up other avenues, and I read it. And the funny thing was, the first time anybody had ever mentioned Thailand to me was before 9/11. I was working in IT with some Asian guys, and they were like, you gotta, they got to know me a little bit. They said, we like you, you got to come out to Thailand with us. And I was very reserved. I wasn't, I was still caught up in corporate America, and I was actually afraid of traveling. I
Hey,
was
real,
afraid
real
of tra
quick, how old are you, man? Because I thought you were maybe even younger than me. It seems like you might be
No,
older
no,
than me.
I get that a lot. I'm 47,
Oh,
so
wow. Okay, okay. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, also, okay. So I didn't mean to interrupt. Okay, so yeah, so we can,
no, no,
also
no,
help the audience to kind of pinpoint where you're at there. Okay,
no, no,
cool.
no, no, no. I
Okay,
understand.
okay.
Yeah, I get about 10 years younger. That's fine. But they invited me, and I wasn't able to. I was still holding on to a lot of stuff from my past, like corporate America, some conditioning in my life, and I wasn't able to take that leap yet. But I saw that film like right after that, and that film stuck with me. It was one of the there was several that film and another film right after. The film I saw called City of God. Now, City of God is about it's about a story about a photographer who escapes from the who uses his art to escape from the favelas in Vidigal. I mean, in Rio de Janeiro. That film transformed my life. That film was actually instrumental in helping me, get the courage to leave, uh, I guess, corporate America. But it would take me about 7 more years after seeing that film. I saw that film in 2003. 2010 is when I finally got to leave the country for the first time. So I have to say, um, there's been several pieces of art that have encouraged me to travel. Because when I went to Brazil, I actually lived in a favela. The reason I stayed there, I was only supposed to stay in Brazil for 1 month, but I went to Rio and I stayed in the favela where the actors, all the actors, their acting school, all the actors from City of God, their acting school is in this place called Vidigal. It's called Nota de Moro. And, I'm going to go back a little bit. I look at a little, when I'm traveling, I look for a lot of signs. I'm not necessarily religious, but I do look for like markers and things that indicate that I'm on the right path. The title of my travel memoir that discusses my life and my travels up till I returned from Asia, it's called Homeboy and the Pyramids. And the pyramids are a reference to the book The Alchemist. That is a very pivotal and very important travel book, but also a spirituality book for a lot of people. And the protagonist in that book travels to Egypt, to the pyramids, to find his quote unquote treasure. Kind of similarly had that kind of scenario, because what happened was when I first got to China in 2013, I made a visa run to Hong Kong. And I was blown away, and I was like, man, I got to live here, man. I want to really live here. And this is going to be the place where I'm going to find my fortune. I'm going to be a millionaire, whatever. So I spent like 4 years traveling through Asia, like trying to make it to Hong Kong. And I finally get there, and I wind up having an unfortunate incident where I got arrested and going to prison. The experiences that I had inside of prison were very instrumental in helping me for the next chapter of my life. And I think actually I've told people, like, my best friends that I met in Asia were in prison.
Wow. Okay.
I've got I'm sitting on some useful information as well, because I'm the first journalist to ever go inside the Hong Kong prison system.
Well, I want to ask you a quick question. So, if you don't mind me asking, whatever,
yeah.
Why did you go to prison in Hong Kong?
No. So I had a argument that turned into a fight.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember my Chinese friends, when I got into prison, they knew I got set up. They got to know me a bit, and they just like, were you by yourself? Did Chinese people start an argument with you? Did the police come and not speak to you and spoke to the Chinese people? And, I don't go around looking for racism.
Yeah.
And that's usually my last option as a traveler. But I remember when that guy was out, because I'll share something. One of my neighbors, my Chinese neighbors, paid my bail. And so I was really confused and flustered. And so I was getting on these message boards talking to different expats. And I shared my story and how the incident started and everything. And I had a British woman write back to me, and she said, the police are usually very lenient with Americans. She said, you shared your story. What nationality are you? And it kind of had to dawn on me that, occasionally, unfortunately, you're going to run into some negative people, but the craziest thing is, Jose, before I was ever arrested, I saw myself. I knew it's gonna sound crazy, but this is what I talk about. I kept having these, like, I would say, like, I don't want to say visions, but I would have like sometimes I saw myself in prison sharing a cell with someone, giving them books months before I was even arrested. I know it's a little weird, but that happened.
That's cool. Yeah. You're like, probably a vision, I guess, of the future there.
Yeah, definitely, that happened. So I had a lot of that strange incidents like that happen to me while I was in Asia, like, or I would have another kind of weird thing that happened, and this happened as soon as I left Beijing. On the last day that I would be somewhere in a particular city or country, I would see someone that I knew randomly out. Wow. And this happened continuously while I was traveling. It was very odd. This was a very strange thing, but the travel memoir talks about my travels, the experiences, things I've learned about traveling. And also the first part of it also talks about how maybe I left a lot behind. Because when you move to another country like you did, I know a lot of your viewers, they're reserved about picking up and leaving. Anybody, I'm pretty sure you have people come and take a vacation. They may visit, but a lot of people don't want to go beyond that comfort zone. So yeah, man, it talked about me. The first part of the book, my travel memoir, just really talking about me leaving a lot of things behind and really turning to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, yeah, which in turn, you know what I mean? Like, again, has turned into a beautiful chapter, many chapters, and thereafter. Because, as you were saying, like the whole thing with the prison incident and everything that happened in Hong Kong and all that good stuff. Again, everything happens for a reason. Good, bad, whatever, and it's all, how you look at it. And, again, you already had that vision, that was going to happen. It happened. And again, sometimes you don't, understand how these dreams or whatever manifest themselves. But again, at the end of the day, it was just like you were saying, again, we just skipped through it because I know there's a lot, there to unpack because you have a really cool story. But the fact that you were saying, it's like, oh, you're the first journalist, first American, really to be in a Hong Kong prison, and how it was all kind of set up. And again, I know you're talking about like the whole racism thing, because it's like, there's a lot of us out there that don't like to touch that subject. But it's out there. The reality is out there. Look, I've experienced it even out here, okay? And we all experience it, in all different, parts of the world and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, it's not that everybody's like that. And again, it was another, Hong Kong resident, your neighbor, right? An Asian, right? A Chinese, that was the one that bailed you out and helped you out and guided you. So, but the point is that it wasn't about that. It was just more about that can happen to anyone in a sense, or things like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to make out of it? How are you going to turn that into something? And again, that was just one of the many things, right? I'm sure that you started covering as a journalist and as a writer.
Well, oh, absolutely. Because when I got into prison, people in prison talk, and so eventually the warden found out that I was a writer. Because if you Google my name, I'm all over the internet.
Okay.
So they pulled me into the office, and they were pissed because what happened was some of the people and someone had went and snitched on me. But the bottom line is, a lot of the foreigners and Chinese, they were coming to me giving me their stories. And the Hong Kong government is sitting on a massive human rights violation. I'm not going to share it all here. It's in my book, but I will say this. They're sitting on a massive human rights violation. And so I had a lot of people sharing this information with me. And yeah, man, it was just it was a very odd experience, just, going through that. But the whole entire journey was, very useful. But again, like I said, the people that I met, that my best friends in Asia were made in prison in Hong Kong. That experience enabled me to go to Africa because the Africans that I met in there invited me to East Africa. But the thing that
so there was a bunch of Africans in the Hong Kong prison.
Oh yeah,
I thought you made friends with other delinquent Hong Kong E's.
No, well the craziest thing, the best contacts I made, like Chinese guys, like if you want drugs, you want this, you want that. It's like they were in prison. And Hong Kong, as many people know, they're going through their own changes and political issues. But no, there are a number of Africans I would met and people with very interesting stories. A lot of people who kind of had a situation where they came to Hong Kong, weren't able to finance themselves. Good people, and then just got involved in doing something, maybe something made a bad decision, and then they did wind up getting 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, again, coming from Africa as opposed to the USA, things, don't roll their way when it comes to, going to court and all that stuff. Because, that's one thing, a lot of people don't realize, America's America, you know what I mean? And that the U.S. passport is very strong, in the sense of like, like again, as soon as they found out you were American and that you wrote stuff, and you have a presence online, I'm sure, again, that's when everything changed. In fact, can you walk us through that? So once they found out, who you were and what you were doing, in a sense, what did they do? I mean, obviously they were mad. I'm sure not at you. They were mad at the people that arrested you, I'm sure, right?
Right. That's what, that's well, they just seemed pissed. They brought me in and, look, we know who you are. And they had put me in a segregated unit. And I was in a unit with a lot of high profile people who were arrested in Hong Kong for various reasons. Some police officers who were involved in a political fight, a gentleman who's like a high-profile banker. So they kind of segregated me to keep an eye on me. And I guess they didn't, but at the same time, there was a lot of stuff. I had already seen everything I needed to see. So it wasn't like they were I had already got my story. By the time they found out, I got my story. But you had asked me when I started journalism. I had started journalism years before. And a lot of people who were online had seen my work in martial arts. I had started writing about Black martial artists. And the irony was, I had an article that was written in 2013, about a decade ago. It went viral all over the internet. And I wrote it in Beijing. I wrote an article called Forgotten Fury, the Black martial artist you should know about. I had already written an article for this, a 5-part article for the Amsterdam News in New York, but this article went viral. It was all over the internet. And it's the craziest thing was I was in China when I wrote it. Yeah, again, my interest in Asia, again, was, started years ago, I guess maybe in high school, but I've worked in martial arts journalism for a long time, writing about movies, writing about Asian martial arts.
Okay.
And another film that had sparked interest in China was this film called The Last Emperor.
Okay.
This is a very famous film about, the last emperor of China. And, over the years, as I've been working in journalism, one of my former editors who had kind of mentored me, because I used to work for a graffiti magazine, he told me in 2005, he's like, the place to go was China. China was developing. It was a really good, there was good economically. And I got there in 2013, but I kind of just had missed that wave because China was in a good, was experiencing a lot of economic growth post the Olympics in 2008. So yeah, man, I think that wasn't one of the things that, because I have always had an interest in traveling through Asia, so I had to make that happen.
Mala, you keep traveling? Are you going back to the USA or?
No, I'm gonna finish up my travel memoir. That one of the main reasons I didn't want to finish my travel memoir in the United States, so I decided, to head down to Mexico, and wanted to just and I would say like I'm 90% done. I just want to tighten it up a bit. And I've been doing a lot of travel writing as well while I'm on the road. And again, I've had a lot of I think maybe about, because I met you this year, I think in April, it may have been like April or March.
Okay.
But I can tell you, I had a lot of signs come to me, and again, I'm not into the whole look in astrology, I'm trying not to bullshit you as much as possible. I'm trying to be a straight shooter, but I had some very odd things happen to me in March. And it was just like, this is like, I'm destined to take this journey. So, man, I think travel, is a spiritual thing as well. I think a lot of people, even a lot of people who move, they may try to move to Merida or Mexico, and a lot of people find out a lot of things about themselves in the process, because I think, I'm pretty sure you interface with a lot more travelers than me, and they're realizing that it's not easy. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah. And no, but and so, yeah, and that's part of the whole thing that, once you're out here, once you're out of the US, once you're out of wherever you're from, that's when you really realize who you are. You start learning uncomfortable truths about yourself. Whether or not you're really willing to do XYZ, can you handle it? Yada yada yada, all this stuff. And for me, yeah, look, I've talked about it multiple times. So don't worry about talking about it here. Spirituality, yeah, it's been very spiritual for me. It's been very eye opening for me. It's been very soul. It made my soul better. It's been soul cleansing, for me. All this other stuff, because it's like, look, at the end of the day, I'm not, I don't want to sugarcoat it. The reality is like, I got my story as to why I left the USA. I got my qualms, but I miss home. There's certain things about the USA, at the end of the day. But after for me personally, living out here, living in Mexico, living abroad, has really opened up my mind into like what is out there, what could be, and to me it's like yeah, no way, you know what I mean? Like I would never want to change this kind of lifestyle, or the way that I live out here, or the way of life out here compared to how it is back home. Back home's great. I'll go back to visit, vacation, all this, but I don't think I could ever live there. And the only way, that I was able to find that out was by living elsewhere. And again, I've just been in Mexico. I've lived in Merida most of the time. Well, all the time, the whole time. But I traveled all over Mexico. But it's kind of like the same vibe. You know what I mean? Like in a sense, just like a USA has a vibe, no matter where you're at. But yeah, I want to travel outside of the USA. You know what I mean? Kind of like what you've done. I would love to go to Asia. I'm very curious, going out there and seeing out there. And the thing is that you never know where you're going to end up or what you really really like. It's funny because I've talked to a lot of Mexicans that travel a lot, and the ones that really really traveled, they always come back home and they realize how good they have it here in Mexico. Again, this is just Mexicans. And so at least for me, that's something I would love to do. I would love to explore the world, to see how good I really have it out here, which, from my understanding, it's, well, we got the best tacos in the world. So, I mean, I don't know what else you really need.
Well, I mean, not just that. I mean, that this whole region where Mexico is developing, is changing politically. The landscape is changing drastically. And so there's going to be so much to invest in and discover in that region. Even in Mexico, like I was there, but I was only there a few months, and I just touched, a starting understanding of Merida. But to be honest with you, like Mexico is one of those countries that you could spend a decade in and
longer.
Really,
yeah. It's like the USA, man. Yeah, the USA is like a monster. I've explored a lot of it. I drove around, and Mexico's. Yeah, I haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg, but it's like that. You know what I mean?
I do. United States is great. I try to travel with some kind of like a path in mind, and other people that know me know that I've been working on. A series of fiction books, martial arts fiction books for several years. So that was another reason why I went to Asia. So usually when I travel, I'm nomadic, but I try to adapt the Slowmad lifestyle. The Slowmad is basically you're not always leaving every 2 or 3 months. You might stay somewhere 6 months, a year. And when I started traveling, I had read something online. Someone's blog, an award-winning blog. It's defunct now, but the guy said, it takes you about 6 months to get situated somewhere. So what I try to do is, if I'm traveling somewhere, stay there for a while and see if it's a good fit. But use my travels in conjunction with my purpose that I have. Like right now I'm working on my travel memoir, so it was beneficial for me to start traveling through Central America.
Yeah, it's part of what you're working on, that, okay, now I get it. I mean? You're traveling and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I know you keep brushing up on that because, look, I've known you for a while now, but it's funny that this is the first time I hear about your martial arts background, and yeah. So basically you're following that because I'm guessing even after you write your memoirs, once you're done with that project and stuff like that, you're going to continue kind of like on that path. That's your thing, right? I mean, that's what you like to write
absolutely.
About. Yeah. So you're going to continue
absolutely.
in a sense and probably, just chasing that around, where the next story is, and that could be basically anywhere because martial arts are everywhere. I mean, it's it's an amazing thing. Yeah, it's, obviously we all know it as the Asian thing, but it's everywhere. I mean, I'll go outside of my house here and, there's like a Taekwondo, what is a studio with a bunch of kids, out there, training or what have you. So, no, but that's cool. That's really awesome. Did you used to fight or anything like that before, or train, or no? You just really love it, huh?
No. Like, I mentioned this in my book, but like, I have, I started out with boxing, and when I went to Brazil, I trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. During my time in Asia, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu saved my life twice. So, I'm always would encourage people, regardless of age, to look at different martial arts, especially more like combat martial arts. But, martial arts is still part of my journey now. I'm training now where I'm currently at in Central America. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a integral part of my journey as well. Because the thing is, like with martial arts, it allows you to connect with people when you travel. So it's a useful tool to kind of just make some friends, make some associates. You know, if you're going somewhere, you have people to train with, and you know, usually a lot of people who train in martial arts, they're very grounded. You know, and you know, they're so that's a easy, because this is one of the first lessons I learned, because I was living in a favela in Rio de Janeiro, and you know, I was having a hard time making friends, good friends, not like dating and stuff, but like, you know, just quality friends and stuff like that. And I went into a dojo, and, you know, again, those guys treated me very well. They taught me some stuff to stay away from in the favela, like certain parties and stuff. But you know, it was very important part of my growth as a traveler.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, really good friend of mine, back home in the U.S. Shout out to Abe, out there living in the great state of Utah. But yeah, I met him when I was living in Seattle, and he's a big lanky guy, and his thing was kickboxing. And when I met him, it was super cool because he would show me all these pictures and tell me all these stories of when he used to travel, out in Asia, training for kickboxing, training out there with them, and just that whole lifestyle in the community and all that stuff. And you're right, you know what I mean? Like the thing is, it's like I always talk about community. It's very, very, very important, especially when you're traveling. And a lot of times, if you don't have something, it's hard to find that community. And martial arts, very easy. All you gotta do is just walk into any dojo, any gym, whatever, and make friends very easily. Again, I know plenty of friends of mine, in that world, and like as you said, very grounded, very all that stuff. But again, we don't know what other groups and other interests are. They might be similar. So the thing is, it's that whatever it is that works for you, there's something out there. Look, when I came out here, when I first came out to Merida, I was into things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, technology, and I started looking that up here. Yeah, sure, there wasn't that many people out here that was into that. There was a few. I made a few friends.
Sure.
I started
Sure.
making connections, and that was that. And so imagine, if you actually have like a real robust interest, such as martial arts or cooking or whatever it is,
Right,
they can
right.
make a lot of friends and a lot of connections, and then that is what will help you. Integrate better, enjoy life better, and all that stuff. I mean, that's very important. There's a reason why you travel and you do these things. You know what I mean? It's not just to look at the touristy attractions, right? So,
No, absolutely. Well,
so yeah.
you
So
know,
what? So
okay.
with that said, what's your favorite spot? What has been your favorite place that you visited so far? What I mean? How many countries you said? Like 6, 7, 8, 10?
7, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a favorite place
Okay.
because I think that they're all kind of it's what you make of the situation when you go there. People like they'll rate, because I've told people I got that wake up when I first went to Rio de Janeiro, and I saw the horrific crime and the poverty. And it's nice to have some fun on the boardwalk and meet a few ladies. But when one night I helped carry this lady was I lived in a favela on like one of the hills in the favela, and I was helping this lady carry a mattress up to her house, and it was wet and it was filthy. She was so happy to have it, and I was just like, man, I'm really thankful for a lot of the things that I have. Made me look at that experience made me look at things a little bit better, and just seeing though like a lot of the harsh poverty that people deal with. When I go somewhere, I don't necessarily. I usually try to stay away from a lot of the tourist stuff. I've never taken a vacation in all this time that I've traveled ever.
Hey,
Um,
your whole life is a vacation. That's what I tell people too. You know what I mean? But yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, well, no, no. Like a lot of people who maybe their experience is going somewhere and going to a resort. That experience they have in Cancun, going to a resort, is not going to be what Merida is like, or living in Merida. So, there's no place that I've been to that's a favorite place. I think each travel opportunity has enabled me to look at certain areas of my life, and not everything always needs to be easy. Um, you know, some people have come to Merida and they've gone on YouTube and they say, I don't like it here. And I don't think that they're failures. I think, failure is part of success. So I commend anyone who travels and moves somewhere, but sometimes you need to go somewhere and just kind of work through the problems. And then, and as a result of working through a lot of those problems, you'll find, uh, you'll create the
Solution.
sanctuary, or the place that the solutions, or you'll create the spot, because Merida can be horrible, or Merida can be awesome. If
Yeah,
it's what you do, it's what you do there.
yeah, as the old saying goes, travel is the best teacher, the best education that anyone can get. And it's things like that because, like, I'm glad you brought that up, about living in the favela. I myself, have not lived, that, in a favela or anything like that. But I know people who have, who do right now. And I've been out there, and I made videos recently, where we're out there, helping, some of these communities. And yeah, man, it's just the whole thing. You know what I mean? The whole thing can really, change you. You know what I mean? In a good way. Again, depending on who you are. Some people,
Yeah.
but yeah, for me, it's just, again, it really makes you realize, how beautiful life is and how good we have it, and all these other things that that are very introspective, and I'm glad that you don't have a favorite country, because it's what you're doing is that you're collecting experiences. Each one is very different. Look, I'm sure as you travel more countries, there'll be, some that are really awesome, maybe favorites and not favorite. But I get what you're saying. I totally understand, because the thing is like every place has, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's the whole. If you're just doing the touristy thing, it's always going to be mostly good. It's like whatever, you know
Right.
what I mean? It's like
Right.
you're reviewing things on Yelp, whatever, good, bad, whatever. But the reality is that, like, a real traveler, you know what I mean? They go through everything. You know what I mean? And embracing the bad. The bad is most of the
Right.
experience, But again, it's not bad. It's just that things, don't go as planned, or they don't go as what you're used to, and all this other stuff. And so, like, the more of a rookie of a traveler you are, the more difficult some of these things are. But, as you become a little bit more of a seasoned traveler, it's just par for the course. You're expecting X, Y, Z to happen. And like you said, travel and doing touristy vacation stuff is two different things. My sister, she comes out to Mexico, she goes to Cancun, resorts, that life. For me, when I travel, vacation, oh no, I want to go and explore. Let's go see what's out there. Sure, I'll do some of the touristy stuff, but for the most part, not really. I want to go and get deep into, let's say, what daily life is out here. How,
Sure.
whatever, the places nobody sees. That's what interests me.
Yeah.
How the people live there. What is it really like there, right? All that stuff. The touristy stuff is touristy. You know what I mean? It doesn't really tell the story of the people, of the place. All that stuff. You know what I mean? So, like the food, for example. I like to seek out the food, but not, I want to go eat what the locals are eating, not,
Sure. Sure.
some restaurant, some, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, no, absolutely. You mentioned a good point, like going some places and then kind of working through things. Just on a travel perspective, one of the places that I know that I have to go to is India. And I was taking an art class when I got back from Asia. I was taking an acting class, and one of my classmates, she was an Indian, very well-traveled lady. And she said, "Looks, Clark, I like you. You're a nice guy. But listen, when you go to India, you're going to experience racism. You're going to experience discrimination." And it didn't bother me because I'm not going. I understand that. I'm not. She didn't say with like, nobody's going to chase you around like the Klan or nothing like that. But it's just like, people are going to act indifferent to you. And that's a part of their culture there that they've had for hundreds, years. So it's going to somebody, because if you talk to people who are serious about travel, India is one of these places where you have to go. But ironically, the other place is Mexico. There's a guy named Drubinski. He's on YouTube.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He said like Mexicans were his favorite people. He said that and that shocked me. Him saying Mexicans, because like pre-Mexico, I always thought about the cartels, and it's like, oh, but that's a part of every culture. But so I think Mexico is very underrated, and I think I still have to come back to Mexico. So I think there's no favorite place for me. It's just like going somewhere, going there with a purpose, I think is more my thing. Going there for a reason. And that's the reason I kind of use travel maybe to work through some things. So like you may someone who's listening, they may travel and go somewhere and they have a horrible quote unquote year, but when they get through that horrible year on the other end of it, maybe there's some skills or something that they picked up that they never would have attained had they just stayed in their comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know what I mean? Like, it was not easy, you know what I mean? Like, the first year, the first time I was here,
Yeah.
I had a lot of things working for me, but I had a lot of things, working against me. And, but again, for me, I would just because of the again, like what you were mentioning earlier, and I like to talk about a lot, is the mentality, man. The way that I was taking it, like, oh, this is an adventure, this is fun. Yeah, sure, there was frustrating days that were not fun, but at the end of the day, it was just one day, one incident. There was always going to be a solution. There was always going to be, the next day, yada, yada, yada. And you work through it. You learn a lot about yourself, about, that experience, going forward. How are you going to handle pressure? How are you going to handle negatives? So many things. And it's funny you were mentioning Drew Binsky. For anyone out there that doesn't know who he is, look him up, okay? Because especially if you're this deep into the interview so far, because you're gonna love him. Me and Christian, we watch him, all the time. Especially back in the day, because he traveled the whole world. He literally has gone to every single country on the planet. And it's funny that he's, that you mentioned that he said that about Mexico, because I guess I missed that or skipped that. But that's awesome. That's a really good. That's a great review, right? A great review from the greatest traveler out there, one of the greatest travelers out there. I mean, look, even Anthony Bourdain loved Mexico. As many countries he loved out there. He loved Asia a lot, but he really loved Mexico. But again, it's about finding your happy place, right? And again, some people they choose Mexico, but not where I live. Again, just like the USA, it's a big country. It might be, I don't know, Guadalajara, Querétaro, I don't know, La Paz, Baja. You might like fish tacos. I don't know. But hey, I want to ask you a quick question, man, because there's a lot of people out there in the audience, and there's one question that a lot of people always, again, they ask me a lot, and I don't always have a good answer for them because again, everyone's different. But we already know that you're a writer. Okay. But is that how you support yourself? Is that how you earn money? Because, at the end of the day, everyone wants to travel, and everyone wants to go through these troubles and, live our lifestyle. But, it does cost money. You know what I mean? Or it does cost, this sacrifice, there's all these things that are involved that a lot of people, like you said, might not want to go through. But yeah, what is it you do? How do you support yourself these days?
So I do a lot of writing, but also digital marketing work. And when I was in Asia, I was initially started out in Asia as an English teacher, but then I started moving into a lot more writing and doing a lot of digital marketing work. So my background in journalism kind of helped me to, bleed those things together. So I would do like content and brand journalism for different companies. So that was something. But mainly it's digital marketing work, that digital marketing coupled with writing assignments. So it's like multiple streams. I think, because right now, especially with the emergence of AI tech, a lot of content that's on, the internet right now is changing. So if somebody is trying to look at, remote work, definitely find like a niche. And I think there's a lot more growth. There's a lot more opportunities in just content, honestly. Everything is changing so much. Like we've talked about Substack and like the old paradigm of like this, the newspapers, or even with the recent election, the old paradigms are changing. So people are coming to YouTube, and they're YouTubers who have more views than some of these people on MSNBC. So I think it's like a lot is changing, but just keeping open and definitely look for areas where you might have some previous experience that can bleed into something that you may do nomadically. So, if you have a background in, in literature or something like that, maybe you can do some kind of online teaching. A lot of people teach English online. They're
Yeah.
not as static.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's something I'm always telling people to fall back on, or at least start with. You know what I mean? That's always an option. Anyone can do, no matter where you land, because again, you speak English, and wherever you land, they don't. And they want to learn. So
Yeah.
that's
Sure.
and you can do it locally, literally with the local people, the people there, or you can do it online. You know what I mean? It's as simple. Simple as that. And again, by the way, anyone that's curious, you can go to my website. I got a full page with a bunch of links of all kinds of digital nomad jobs.
Everything is changing, and there's going to be so many more opportunities within travel. I think the main thing is try to, if somebody's interested in like doing remote work, because just try to keep yourselves open, because my remote work, my first marketing job assignments came from an acquaintance, someone I had done some previous writing for, and he just dumped a whole bunch of work. So that enabled me, because I was never thinking about doing, I had done some freelance writing, but I never thought about doing marketing for different companies. So just keeping yourselves open, and like you said, embracing this change, because we're going through the same kind of change that happened years ago when the internet first came. That shook a lot of people up, and everybody was, oh my God, But the people who rolled with the punches, there were, were plenty of jobs and plenty of things available. So look at that, but also look at, we're kind of like in this digital global village where travel is normalized now. And remote work is normalized. And I think a lot more people are going to be considering living abroad, not just retiring, not just at retirement age, but maybe people who are younger, young professionals are going to be able to start moving to certain places. And so much going on. The next decade right now is going to tremendously change the way we do work and the business models of work.
Oh, 100%. 1,000,000%. And to me, that's a thing. It's like, for us out there now, I feel like we're more free than we've ever been before. But it takes work. Again, you still look. A bird is free, but they still got to put in that effort, to fly, right? They got to flap those wings. They got to, So it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to put yourself. The only way you're going to learn that is by putting yourself out there and seeing, what you can do. And again, again, all these sayings are true. A lot of these sayings, here's another one. Fake it till you make it. Like same thing. I'm sure when you were starting out, you were just kind of like you were saying, you were doing things for friends, same as me. You go back to my original YouTube page, and you'll see I was making music videos, and I was making videos for my artist friends, and I was just messing around, and it was only because those are the only clients I could get because they were free. Meaning that hey, can I do a video for you for free? Just be my subject, and believe it or not, it was still hard. Because some people didn't want to they didn't want to participate or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it took a lot of work, and I'm so happy I did it. And the same as you. Look at the life that we live now. We're very happy, and we still have so much ahead of us. I always think about this, all right? Again, everyone's different out there, but at least for me, I look at my age. I'm 43. You say you're 47. Again, some people that age are like, oh my God, I'm so old. I'm so this. I don't feel that old. I feel very, young and whatever, even though, some mornings, it's a little, anyways. The point I'm making is that, I often think about like, man, imagine if I was working a job, and I'm 43 right now. I still got minimum 20, 25 years of working before I can do what I'm doing right now. And by the time I get to that age, I'm not going to be wanting to do what I want to do now. Because even at my age, even though I feel young and great, same as you, we want to do more than what we're doing. But age and all these things kind of limit those, like, energy, whatever. But that's the thing, man. To me, it's like I always look at it that way. I always look at, that whole idea, where you were talking about like, oh, I don't take a vacation. Me either. Look, when like earlier this year, I went to Guadalajara with the wife, and, she was on vacation, me, sure, I was on vacation, but I was working, I was making videos, but I was loving it, and I love it. And when you love what you do, you don't need a vacation. You know what I mean? Life itself, is a vacation. It's awesome enough. Can you tell us a little bit more, about, your publications out there? Because again, you told us about the book, right? You say you write, but where can we find your writings? Where can we find all that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, So, I
Yeah,
want to provide it for
most
the audience. I want to provide the links down below and stuff like that.
no, absolutely. Most of my writing right now is on Substack, my travel writing. So I've moved majority of my podcast and my writing to Substack. I write a lot. My audience on Substack is primarily, it's for travelers. So if you check me out there, you'll find out a lot of my ramblings about travel. Yeah.
What about the book? Where can we find the book?
Homeboyandthepyramids.com.
Oh, okay, awesome, awesome. Also, you distribute, you publish, right? Self-publish,
Yeah,
distribute.
I'm self-published
Awesome. There
100%.
you go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, attaboy. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, once I get to that point, I already know who to talk to help me
Oh,
out with that. That's
absolutely.
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then okay, so yeah, and then all the other links and all the other stuff, we're gonna put down below. But
Okay.
before we go, I wanted to, I want to ask you, is there anything you want to tell the audience? Is there any, last, kind of words or anything you want to tell the audience? I feel like we've covered a lot, but like, you know what? I got one. What are the pros and cons of living the nomadic lifestyle? Now, I know, we've already talked a lot about the pros. There's a lot of pros out there, but you can add some more if you want. But what's some of the cons? I can feel like a lot of people out there, they don't, they don't really talk about that. They always kind of like brush over it.
Well, I think one of the biggest cons with nomadic lifestyle is community. If you are constantly moving around, you might go somewhere where you travel and it's just not a good fit. And I think you should stay somewhere for a while and evaluate it. And it's an important question because you could have more people entering this digital nomad lifestyle. So they may go somewhere for 3 months, 6 months. And if it's not a good fit, then you may want to move on. But I think one of the major cons is definitely it's lack of community. When you're situated, like if I'm back in New York City and I'm back in my neighborhood, or like I just left Harlem. I was raised in Queens, but at the end of the day, like if I'm feeling down, I can go run into the church on Sunday, and I'm not a Christian, but nobody's gonna push me out of the church. And it's like, so sometimes you just need to you're away from a lot of things that are familiar to you, and you can get a little homesick. So that's why I always recommend that people, if they're gonna stay out of the States for a while, come back to the States, recharge for a few months, go get your favorite food, go to your favorite places, and then that if traveling is for you in that capacity, you might get that travel bug, like, all right, I gotta go. So some people like that. Some people like they come back and they, and because when you come back, if you're outside the country for a year or 2 years or 3 years, when you come back, that's another part of your journey, because that world that you left, you see it much differently. So again, there are cons with traveling around a lot, but it's just how you do it. I would recommend that people, I don't recommend that anyone just jump into the nomad lifestyle. I recommend that people have if they're going to go live somewhere first, preferably they have a job. Like they're teaching English or they're doing something in a foreign country. This way they have some kind of community or some kind of base.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Some great tips. That's some awesome information there. About community, because you make a great point, and being homesick. In fact, you made a really good point as to, it's a wise decision to go back to the USA. Even if it's just for just so that you can realize how good you really have it wherever you're at. Because I myself, I haven't been back, in a minute. It's been a while. But for me, that would probably be the reason to go back, to just, get a few things that I miss, and then really, realize, how much I miss Mexico, wherever, I'm at the moment. Yeah, with that said, I wanted to also say that, again, thank you so much, Clarke. I really, really appreciate your time. I really, really appreciate, you wanted to share, your life, with all of us out here. Again, guys, go check out his book, Homeboy and the Pyramids.com, right? But again, the title of the book, Homeboy and the Pyramids, a travel guide for the so-called black man. Because, again, there's a lot of, people out there that are traveling. And, in your case, look, let's just call it what it is. You're a black man, all right? Like you said in the title of your book. And your experience is very unique. Just like my experience as a Cuban is going to be very unique. Just like, William, the white guy, and so on and so forth. But even in that sense, your perspective, it doesn't matter what the color your skin is or who you are, your book is going to be, very, very instrumental and very helpful for anyone out there. Because look, I myself, I get racism as well. Okay, again, imagine the opposite. Okay, imagine me, white guy, white skin, and I go to a predominantly black area or a darker area. Things like that, or Asian, or India, there's many things, all right? So, that's the thing. At the end of the day, your perspective is not that unique once you get out of the USA. Once you get out of that comfort bubble, you realize, that, what you're going through is what, a lot of people are probably going to be going through, and so on and so forth. So, all right, guys, you already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. And again, one favor to ask, go check out Clarke. Go check out his content. Go check out all the links down below. And I hope you guys, enjoyed today's interview. And I hope you guys enjoy, reading his stuff. And check him out on Substack and all that stuff. In fact, he's the one that got me to start writing, all right? So you can blame him or thank him, however you want to look at it. So, all right, guys, thanks again. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks again, Clarke. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.